Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Welcome to the beginning of our course. We have the Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment course that I'm going to be teaching over the next 5 days from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., helping students to be able to develop a foundation in the path to enlightenment. You're going to be exposed to many different teachings, helping you to understand the path to enlightenment. We're going to start our class this morning with some meditation, and then I'm going to share with you guys what's actually comprising this course. Then we're going to go into our first talk where I'm going to share with you the life story of the Buddha. We're going to take a mid-morning break. We're going to talk about what is enlightenment so that you understand what this mental state is. We're going to spend a good hour or so talking about that. We're going to take a nice hour and a half lunch, and then when we come back, I'm going to teach you Buddhist chanting so that you'll learn how to be able to do the chanting that we do before meditation. So if you'd like to join with meditation, we're going to start with that, and then I'll actually start the course for you guys. The chanting over there on the chanting sheets is what I do when I start meditation. So if you'd like to chant along, you're welcome to. I know you guys haven't learned this yet. I'll teach it to you this afternoon, but you're welcome to chant along even though we haven't actually taught it to you yet. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance to be able to help you guys to understand how to actually be meditating while I'm meditating. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. It's important to understand that these chants aren't a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. And this is what his students would do in order to help them to be able to learn the path to enlightenment. Where today we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings because we have books and audiobooks and videos and podcasts and things like that. But I still chant because it helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you'd like to chant, you're more than welcome to. And you'll see that the chants have a lot of respect and gratitude and appreciation for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha actually even created these chants, because a Buddha wouldn't walk around saying, here, chant these things to me out of respect to me, because there's a lot of admiration and gratitude and respect in there. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and sadness and frustration that is the unenlightened mind to this enlightened mental state where the mind's peaceful and joyful and it's a permanent mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect for that person too. So I suspect that's where these came from, is probably his students, either during his life or after his death. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that you're going to be learning as part of this course. It's seated, lying, standing, and walking. But we'll start you off in the seated position. I'll provide you a little bit of guidance on that. If you're sitting on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat a bit. And then if you're going to cross your legs, just bringing them together lightly is usually best. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation in the lower body and it can cause pain in your legs. And that's going to make it difficult for you to meditate. So just bringing the legs together lightly is usually best. Some people like to put their legs off the mat and get their hips up in the air. So that's an option for you as well. There's not just one fixed way to do this. In fact, what I'm sharing with you now is just suggestions for you to consider, because there's more than one way to sit. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If you'd like to use this, you could. But again, there's other options because it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. You could put your palms on your thighs or on your knees. You could put your palms up. You could rest your hands comfortably in your lap. You can really sit however you like with your hands in the arms. And then if someone's in a chair, or maybe if you're at home on a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair, you can just sit however you're comfortable as well. Sometimes people put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see I'm sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so that's an option as well. And then in terms of your hands and arms, if you're sitting in a chair, you can also put those wherever you like as well, whatever's comfortable for you. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect with your sternum up and your shoulders back, because it'll keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation so that you can actively train the mind. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So by having the upper body in the middle, this is going to help you to be able to not only keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation, but it'll help you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to start us off with the chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on. Then I'm going to come back with some guidance on the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava โหตังมหาควันนังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาควัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาควัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตูอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะกะวาโพตังมะกะวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโพโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. I like to start each class when I'm teaching brand new students, sharing a few things with you guys to help you kind of really get started on the path to enlightenment. Now, I know some of you guys have studied with me before in various classes, but this might be the first time that you've taken a course like this. It's important to understand that everything that the Buddha taught is helping you to cultivate wisdom about the world around you. You won't hear me talking about any kind of beliefs, opinions, views, or anything like that during our courses or at any other time that you might study with me. If you just believe what I'm sharing with you, you will never be able to experience the results and the benefits of what the Buddha actually taught. But if you listen with eager ears and you actively work to understand what it is that I'm sharing with you through learning, examining, and investigating the teachings, through reflecting on them to independently verify whether they're true or false, and then you practice these teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life, that's when you'll actually experience the results of what you can really experience through training your mind with these teachings. So the teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing, and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, what he did is he's teaching you about the natural laws of existence. There are certain natural laws that you're being affected by, whether you're aware of these natural laws or not. Just like the natural law of gravity, we are affected by this, whether we're aware of this natural law or not as we were growing up, we're affected by other natural laws as well. And we really struggled at those times when we didn't have wisdom of the natural law of gravity. We fell down, we hurt ourselves, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, we had all kinds of difficulties like that. But slowly but surely, we awoke, or we cultivated wisdom of the natural law of gravity. We we don't believe in the natural law of gravity. We know that it's true because we can see it. If we take something and we do that, we can see, yeah, there's gravity right there. And we know that to be true. And because we've cultivated so much wisdom about this natural law of gravity, we now experience beneficial results that we can climb ladders, we can ride bicycles, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world because we understand this natural law of gravity. But when we lacked wisdom of it, we struggled and had difficulties in the world. As a child, we really cried, we were upset, we had all kinds of difficulties. But slowly but surely, we learned how to tie our shoes tighter, how to stop being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. We learned how to navigate the world more peacefully. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha are all about. It's helping you to be able to navigate this world more peacefully and more harmoniously, because these natural laws are affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. So as I'm teaching you at any point in time, whether it's this course or any other time, it's important not to believe anything that's being shared with you. You need to be able to cultivate wisdom so that you can independently verify the truth for yourself. So as we're going throughout the course, I'm going to be stopping and looking to see if you guys have questions. And if you guys would like to ask any questions, you're more than welcome to do that as we go through the course, because you aren't a follower. You're not a devotee or anything like that. In order to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to be an independent practitioner who's looking for the truth and seeking the truth, cultivating wisdom. What a teacher's doing for you is we're kind of like a tour guide. We're pointing out the things for you that you need to know, and we're just pointing to them and saying, hey, this is what you need to know. Let me share this with you. Here's a book that you're going to need to read. This is important for you to read. Things like this. And as you're learning and growing along the path, we're here to guide you, but it's you that's doing the individual work. You're going to need to listen with eager ears. You're going to need to be able to actively understand the teachings, get clarification on those teachings, independently verify them, and then integrate them into your day-to-day life. And that's what's going to really create the transformation to your mind and to your life as well. So as we go, feel free to ask any and all questions that you like. I'm going to be stopping at different times and seeing if you guys have any questions about the things that I'm sharing. If you're here at the temple and you'd like to ask questions, if you guys could use the microphones there in the white bowl, that would be helpful so that the people online can hear you. So we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and they'll be able to hear you online. All you need to do is press the gray button, wait for the lights to come on, and then hold the microphone up to your chin, and then you can speak and we can all hear you. And then when you're not using the mic, if you could turn it off, that would be good so we don't get any feedback. And you can keep these mics with you because you might have more than one question, or people around you might have a question, and you can share them. And then for those of you guys that are online, you can ask questions through putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. I'll see that in the comment section. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream. So the first thing that I have to share with you guys is I'm going to help you to just understand the course and how the course is made up. Then we're going to move into a talk about the life story of the Buddha. We're going to take our mid-morning break. I'm going to teach you about what is enlightenment. Then we're going to take a nice lunch break and then come back and I'll teach you some chanting. But let me help you to understand the course and what you'll be able to learn this week if you're coming to the course each day. First, this is my contact information. This is more for you after the course, because if you're coming to the course, great, I'll teach you. If you have something that comes up during your morning or during your evening and you can't come to class, it's okay. You don't have to let me know. This is just impermanence. If you'd like to log in online and attend online, maybe you're sick in your hotel, or maybe you're somewhere else, you're welcome to use the online because I live stream and use Zoom as well, and you're welcome to come here as well. But this contact information is a way that you can contact me after the course, because you're going to need help beyond this course. Nobody's going to get to enlightenment in 5 days. You're going to need assistance. And all this information is available on our website as well. So if you go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, you'll be able to find this information there too. And by the way, all these slides that I'm sharing, they're on our website as well. You can go to the website, click on free books, and scroll down towards the bottom, and you'll see PDF versions of all of these. There's even workbooks there. There's a print shop down the street. If you would like to print out the workbook and take notes, you're able to do that as well. So feel free to use that. And if you need help finding it, just let me know, and I will help you to find it. So in terms of the way our course is structured, each day we have this schedule of Each morning we will start with chanting and meditation, just like we did this morning. You'll see that I'll be doing that with you to give you a chance, an opportunity to develop your chanting and meditation practice. And then around 9:30, I will switch to start talking about the teachings, because you need more than just meditation to be able to make your way to enlightenment. Some people call this a Dhamma talk because the word Dhamma means teachings. This is a talk about the teachings. The way that I think about these is it's a discussion. I'm sharing things with you, helping you to understand the teachings. You're asking questions, getting clarification. It's not a sermon or a lecture or anything like this. It's a discussion, me helping you to understand the teachings. So we're going to do that starting at 9:30. And then we usually take a mid-morning break somewhere around 10:30 to 11. Give you guys a chance to interact with each other, use the bathroom, have some snacks, do things like this, go out and get some fresh air. Then we come back and we usually talk up until lunchtime. We usually take lunch around 12, sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later. Each day is a little bit different. Then we typically will take an hour and a half lunch break, giving you guys a nice long time to be able to go out and get some food and refresh yourself. If you'd like to stay here, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Sometimes people take naps here, do some yoga or things like this. You might even see me taking some naps from time to time. So feel free to use this space however you like. This space doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to anybody. You can use it. It's a community center. It's for anybody and everybody to come here and use it. So feel free to use this space however you like. Then around 1:30, each time we go to lunch, I will let you know what time we're coming back. But around 1:30, I will start with meditation, or teaching you meditation, and then actually doing meditation. So our afternoons are kind of preserved. Like this afternoon will be chanting. Tomorrow I'm going to teach you meditation. Wednesday I'm going to be teaching you walking meditation, things like this. So the afternoons are kind of preserved for teaching you meditation and actually doing meditation. Then we usually finish around 3 o'clock. Again, a little bit earlier sometimes, a little bit later. It just depends on the day. Then we're going to do that for 4 days up until Thursday. Then on Friday, I'm going to invite you guys to come out to a field trip where if you guys would like to come visit some temples outside the city, I will walk you around and show you the symbolism, the architecture, and the artwork in temples. Because after you've studied the teachings for 4 days, you will be able to enter into a temple environment, and it's kind of like the walls will speak to you. It's like the statues and the symbols and things like this. You'll understand them more at that point in time, so that when you go to a temple, it's actually meaningful for you. So you can kind of think about Friday like a classroom without walls, where we will walk around the temple and I will be teaching you about different things at the temples. We're going to visit 2 different temples. One is a forest temple. One is what I refer to as a city temple, but they're not all in the city. This one that we're going to see is up on the top of a mountain. We're going to go to Wat Umong and Wat Doi Suthep, and these are the 2 different branches of Buddhist teachings in Thailand. And by visiting these 2 temples on the same day, you can see the differences between the 2. And I'll be able to walk you through. And from that point forward, you'll be able to visit any temple anywhere in the world, and you'll be able to understand some of the symbolism and architecture and artwork at a temple. And this is kind of like a activity that Thai people do when they go on vacation. Like if you're from Chiang Mai and you go to Phuket on vacation as a Thai person, your family's probably going to visit a few temples along the way in order to kind of see what other temples are set up like. So it's kind of like, in the West, we might visit Disney World or Disneyland or something like that. Thai people visit temples and they go in and they look around, and it's kind of really interesting. If you know the teachings, the walls will kind of speak to you. So you guys are welcome to come to that, and I'll explain to you more about it when we get closer to it. There'll be some people from this class that are coming, but there'll be other people who aren't in this course that'll also join us for that as well. So I'll talk more about that on Thursday so you'll understand what we're going to be doing there. The course is based on this particular book. It's called Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is the first book of the Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden book series. You can actually get this for free. You can go to our website and download it and have it for free. You can take it and go print it if you like, at your own cost. If you'd like to get printed versions here, you can get them from us by just reimbursing us for the printing cost. And we have them all around. You can get a version here if you'd like. They even have it on Amazon. You can get it from Amazon if you'd like to order it from there. I'm going to be teaching you chapters 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 19. So it's helpful to be able to read these either before class or after class. It will help you to read. And whether you read this week or not, that's up to you. But this is a book that you're probably going to read multiple times. It's not like a one-time thing. You'll probably end up reading it multiple times because there's some things that are in the book that aren't in the classes. And there's some things that are in the classes that aren't in the book. So a combination of the two will help you to be fully informed, and you can get access to this really easily at no cost. And then in terms of what you're going to be learning is today I'm going to be sharing with you the life story of Gotama Buddha, helping you guys to understand this individual. Because if you're going to study his teachings and learn them, it'd be nice to know a little bit about his life. So I'm going to teach you his life story. Then I'm going to teach you what is enlightenment. This is the ultimate goal of the teachings of the Buddha. And just like if you were going on a journey somewhere, you would like to know a little bit about that place that you're going to. It's the same thing with enlightenment, that you'd like to kind of know what this is, to even decide whether it's something that you would like to acquire as part of your journey in life. So I'll help you guys to understand what enlightenment is. Then tomorrow, I'm going to spend time teaching you the Four Noble Truths, establishing right view. This is the very first and beginning teaching of the Buddha, where you'll understand the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. This is where you can have a real breakthrough to understanding what's causing your anger, your sadness, your frustration, and all these other discontent feelings. And this is how you really get started on the path, by learning this very first teaching. And then I'm going to spend time teaching you the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha. I'm going to be using his original words. It's very rare for people to study his teachings based on his original words, but here, that's how we study the teachings, because that's what's going to actually lead to enlightenment, is studying with his actual teachings. You might be surprised to hear that people in the world don't study with his teachings. Very few people actually even know where to get access to his teachings, because his teachings are comprised of 45 large volumes of books that are this thick. And for most people, if you get access to this, like here in Thailand, it would cost 3 months of your salary in order to have access to that. And most people don't have access to book collection. That's 3 months of their salary. You probably don't have a book collection like that either. So most people don't even have access to these. Even the average temple in Thailand doesn't have access to these. But the way that we've done this is by consolidating it and using the internet to give it away for free. It makes it much more accessible to people, that they can acquire it at a relatively inexpensive price. So I'll be using the words of the Buddha to help you understand his teachings, because that's what's actually going to lead to the improvement to the condition of your mind in your life. And you would always be interested in studying with his original words. Then on Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching you transforming the 3 poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. This is going to deepen your understanding of what's going on in the unenlightened mind and also broaden it. And I'm going to help you to not only understand the problems, but the solutions as well. Then I'm going to teach you the 5 precepts. This is something that integrates into the Eightfold Path, helping you to more fully understand certain aspects of that important teaching. If you've ever heard that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxicants, this isn't what the Buddha actually taught. He doesn't speak that way. That sounds like black and white. It sounds like rules and commandments. I'm going to use his actual words to help you see what he taught on this important topic, because what he's doing is he's helping you to understand the natural law of karma, of cause and effect. In that particular teaching of the 5 precepts are 5 impactful decisions that you could make either wisely or unwisely, and it will either produce wholesome results or unwholesome results. So by using his original words, you'll be able to see that there's this large gray area, and you're going to need to be able to navigate this as part of your journey to enlightenment. Then on Thursday, I'm going to be teaching you what is karma and how does it affect me. This is a natural law that's affecting you at all times, whether you're aware of it or not. And the more wisdom you have of this natural law, the easier it'll be for you to navigate the world. So I'm going to teach you about that on Thursday morning. Then I'll teach you what is merit, and I'll teach you how to get continued support on the path to enlightenment beyond this course, because there's continued support for you beyond just this course. So I'll help you to understand how to do that. Then I'm going to be teaching you about meditation all the way throughout the course. We're going to be doing breathing mindfulness meditation together, but I'm actually going to teach it to you Tuesday afternoon. So you'll have it chance to do this meditation at least 3 times with me before I actually teach it to you. So that way you'll have some more experience. When we start teaching it to you, you'll have a better understanding and a frame of reference to be able to help you better understand it. I'm going to ultimately be teaching it to you in the seated, lying, standing, and walking positions, because you're going to need these different positions at different times. This is the primary form of meditation that the Buddha used in order to make his way to enlightenment. There's other forms of meditation as well, but this is the primary form that you're going to actually need, but you're going to need others as well. But when students are first starting out with a foundation, they will start with this one. Then I'm going to teach you Buddhist chanting this afternoon, helping you to understand the history of that, where it came from, what its origins are, what the benefits are, and then actually how to actually do it so we can do it as a class. Then ultimately, I'm going to teach you how to integrate the teachings into your day-to-day life, because that's where you're going to get the real results. So I'm going to share that with you on Thursday as well, helping you to understand how to take what you learn in this course and integrate it into your day-to-day life. So I'm going to get started here with this talk about the life story of the Buddha. But before I do you guys have any questions on the course or anything you'd like to ask about how the course is structured or what you're going to be learning this week? No questions? Okay. So I'm going to share this story with you about the life story of the Buddha. And this is from chapter 19 of the book. I titled this chapter, The Difficult Human Existence, Sickness, Aging, and Death, because these are 3 of the things out of the 4 that motivated the Buddha to actually make his way to enlightenment. You're going to hear about what's called the 4 observations. And this is 3 of them. And the Buddha looked at life when he was unenlightened as very difficult, very challenging, very miserable. Ultimately, by the time you get to enlightenment, that's not the case. But that's why I titled this particular chapter, The Difficult Human Existence, because as you get to enlightenment, and existence isn't difficult anymore. It's quite easy. It's quite straightforward. But in the unenlightened state, life can feel very difficult and very mundane and very much a struggle. But that's not the case when you get to enlightenment. So I organized this talk into these sections where I'm going to talk about the birth of the Buddha. I'm going to talk about his early life. I'll talk about his journey to enlightenment and then his teaching career. And ultimately, we're going to circle back and talk about the sickness, aging, and death, because these are 3 impactful times where you might really struggle when you're experiencing sickness, aging, and death, or the people around you that you're close to, if they're experiencing sickness, aging, and death. This could be a real challenge for you. So we're going to circle back and talk about that. And usually what I do is I pause a few times as I'm talking in order to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. But with this particular topic, it's usually best to just explain it all the way through and then open up to questions at the end. So this individual, who we refer to as Gotama Buddha or the Buddha, he was born into a royal family. His mother was a queen and his dad was the king. And he was born with the name Siddhartha Gotama. And when he was in his mom's womb and she was living with her husband, the king, during this time frame, if you were a woman getting ready to deliver a baby, you would usually go back to your homeland, wherever that was, and deliver your baby around your family members, like your parents and your siblings and people like this, so that they could then help you to take care of the child. So they organized a caravan for the queen to take her back to her homeland where she grew up so that she could deliver the baby. And on her way back to her homeland, she actually goes into labor pains. She starts having labor. So they stop the caravan. She gets out of the caravan and she goes over to a tree and she holds on to the tree, the branch of a tree, standing up, because the baby was having trouble getting out of the birthing canal. So she had to stand up in order to try to get this baby out. And she was holding on to this tree and the baby wouldn't come out of the normal birthing canal. So it ends up breaking through the side of her stomach and it was born out through the side of her stomach. And because of this, she ends up dying 7 days later after the birth of Siddhartha Gotama. And because death for a woman during childbirth was not uncommon during that time frame, they had protocols in place for that too. That if as a woman you died during childbirth and your children lived, then your siblings would adopt your child as their own. So she had an older sister who adopted Siddhartha Gotama as her own child. So his aunt became his stepmother, and now she raised him as her own child. And it's said at his birth that he walked 7 steps Lotus flowers were blossoming under his feet, and he spoke and he said, "This will be my last birth." I don't think this part of the story is actually true, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. But it is in the original source text. If you look at the original source text, it describes this. Sometimes what happens when somebody does something as amazing as a Buddha does during their lifetime, as stories are handed down from person to person to person, they kind of embellish the stories along the way to make that person look even better than they already are. But a Buddha has done things already amazing in their life. There's no need to embellish the story of a Buddha, but I suspect it was actually an embellishment of the story, because if this was true, the next part of the story wouldn't actually be needed. The next part of the story is that his father, being the king, was very interested to know what his son was going to become. It was a common practice to bring fortune tellers or advisors to come advise you what your child was going to become. So he summoned 108 advisors to come and let him know what his son was going to become. Now, again, if you had a child where they were born, lotus flowers were blossoming under their feet, they were walking, they were speaking at birth, you don't need fortune tellers to let you know what your son is going to become. You pretty much know this person's special, right? But nonetheless, that's what's in the story. So 108 advisors come and advise the king of what his son is going to become. They're essentially fortune tellers. And what these people tell him, 107 of them, say that your son's going to be a great monarch. He's going to be a great ruler. He's going to rule over your kingdom and expand your territory far and wide. And of course, his father's like, that's my boy. Yeah, that's what I want, right? But then there is this one advisor who comes in at the end, and he has to apologize to the king. And he says, "Sir, I'm so sorry. I heard the other advisors, and they are exactly correct. Your son's going to be a great leader, but not in the way that you think. He's not going to be a great monarch. He's not going to rule over your land and your territory. He's not going to expand your territory. He's going to be a spiritual leader." And his father didn't like this. So his father decides he's going to keep him in the palace and never let him go outside. He's going to sequester him in the palace because he wasn't interested in him getting involved in worldly affairs. He thought that that would kind of motivate him to be a spiritual leader. So he thought that he would kind of like have him in this lap of luxury in order to kind of woo him into the ways of being a monarch and a ruler. So he gave him like beautiful women bathing him. He gave him wonderful fabrics to be wearing as clothing. He gave him all the entertainment and wonderful food that you can imagine. Anything that you think that a royal rich father could give to their son, his father gave it to him in order to ensure that he kind of got hooked to this lifestyle as being a monarch and a ruler, thinking that if he got hooked to it, he would never be able to go out and do anything else other than be a king, because as a spiritual leader, he wouldn't have those same things. So Siddhartha Gotama lives this kind of sheltered life for these 29 years that he's in the palace and he's living in this lap of luxury. And at the age of 29, he realizes that he's about to become the king, because during this time frame, you would become the king at the age of 30 and your father would retire. And now your father would be there to help you and support you to be a better and better king. So at the age of 29, realizing that he was about to become the king and he's never been outside the palace, he was thinking, how could I rule over these people when I've never even been outside the palace? Like, I don't even know what the kingdom is like. So without his father knowing and against his wishes, he kind of sneaks outside the palace and he takes with him his royal attendant. This is like his chief of staff, his main confidant, the person who he trusts the most. And he goes outside the palace with this person in order to be able to kind of observe what life is like in the kingdom. And when he goes outside the palace, he has what's called the 4 observations. He sees a sickly person, an aging person, a dead corpse, and he sees a roaming ascetic, someone who's given up worldly life. And he doesn't understand what's going on in all these situations, so he has to turn to his royal attendant and ask what's happening. He sees this sickly person and he sees this disgruntledness and frustration around them. And he has to ask his royal attendant, like, what's going on over there? He's like, oh, those people are frustrated and agitated because they can't get the basic necessities that they need in order to sustain life because they're sick and they're ill and their family's not going to have what they need. And this was like mind-blowing for Siddhartha Gotama, because he didn't understand that, because he lived this life of luxury in the palace, but yet here these people are struggling to live life. And then he sees an aging person, kind of an older, decrepit person, bones protruding, having difficulties walking, same kind of thing. There was disgruntledness and frustration around this person. And he has to ask his royal attendant about this. And he says the same thing, that this person's having a hard time to sustain their life. And then he sees a dead corpse and people grieving and in sorrow around the dead corpse. And he has to ask his royal attendant what was going on over there. And it was essentially the same story, that this individual had died and now the family was going to really struggle without that person in their life. And Siddhartha Gautama didn't understand this, because he lived this life of luxury and he didn't understand not having what you didn't need in order to sustain your life. So when he looked at what he saw in the royal kingdom, is he felt that it was full of misery and despair, that he lived this life of luxury, this wonderful life that he's always had. But when he went outside the palace, he saw this life of misery and despair. And he wasn't interested in ruling over that, because he saw these people that were really struggling. And then he sees this fourth observation. The fourth observation that he sees is someone who's kind of given up worldly life in order to understand sickness, aging, and death, and kind of on this path to enlightenment. You don't have to give up your worldly life in order to pursue enlightenment and get to enlightenment, but some people choose to do it that way. That's one lifestyle to take. So Siddhartha Gautama saw this individual kind of off meditating, and he had to ask his royal attendant, like, what's that person doing? And he's like, oh, that person, he's trying to understand all these other things. He's trying to understand sickness, aging, and death, and why this is occurring. And Siddhartha Gautama decides that this is what he would like to do, that he wasn't interested in ruling over misery and despair. So he goes back to the palace and he decides he's going to leave the royal palace in order to try to figure out why people experience sickness, aging, and death, and why all that disgruntledness and frustration is occurring, so that he can help them to overcome it. But at this time he was married and he had a young infant son. They were sleeping. It was nighttime, and he was knowing that he needed to leave the palace and go on this journey. But he didn't wake them up and say goodbye, because he was concerned that if he woke them up, he wouldn't leave, because he didn't understand the mind as much as he did by the time he got to enlightenment, but he understood it enough that he felt like if he kind of hugged them and kissed them and said goodbye and all these kinds of things, that he wouldn't have the strength and the ability to leave. So he just kind of leaves in the middle of the night without them knowing. And he takes with him his favorite horse and his royal attendant, and he leaves out of the palace. And when he leaves out of the palace, he ultimately gets to a point where he cuts off his hair. He has this long, beautiful, flowing hair at the time. He'd been growing it for 29 years. And this is how people knew you were a member of the royal family. Because if you were a member of the royal family, you would have servants, you would have people that could shampoo your hair, comb your hair, detangle your hair. You could sit around and people would be able to take care of your hair for you. And if you went out into the kingdom, people would know you're a member of the royal family, because those people that were working in the fields and doing labor jobs, they wouldn't be able to have that long, beautiful, flowing hair, because it would all get knotted up and tied up. But the royal family could take care of their hair because they had the time and the resources and the ability to do that. So him cutting off his hair was like, I'm never going back. I'm never going back to the palace. I'm never going to assume the throne, because he was the first son. He was in line to become the king. But if he cut off his hair that he'd been growing for 29 years, nobody would ever think that he was the actual king when he walked out in the palace, or walked out into the kingdom. Where today in the kingdom, if we were interested in people knowing who the king is, we just put up the picture of the king and the queen and put it all over the kingdom, and everybody knows who that is, where they didn't have that technology back then. So he goes off on this journey to be able to get to enlightenment. And he starts studying with two different teachers. He starts with this first teacher, and this first teacher is teaching him to hang himself upside down from trees, to lay on beds of nails, to starve himself, to pierce his body with metal implements. And this is what they were teaching, because people thought that that's the way to get to enlightenment, to cause physical pain to the body. And if your mind could overcome that, then you would be able to get to enlightenment. But Siddhartha Gautama did this for an entire year, and he got to the end of the training, and the teacher declared that he was a master of his teachings and that he could share his teachings. And Siddhartha Gautama realized that his mind wasn't any more peaceful than it was when he was in the palace. So he went to another teacher, and this other teacher was claiming that they had figured out what it took to get to enlightenment. So he started studying with this teacher, and he was essentially learning the exact same things: hanging himself upside down from trees, laying on beds of nails, starving himself, things like this. And he got to the end of 1 year, and he had also mastered that teacher's teachings, but his mind wasn't any more peaceful than it was when he was in the palace. So he was frustrated with the whole thing. He thought he had wasted 2 years of his life, and he goes off into the forest by himself in order to be able to try to figure out how to get to enlightenment. But when he was in the forest by himself, he only knew how to do the things that these teachers taught him. So he continued to do those kinds of things. He was starving himself. He took this so far that he was only eating 1 grain of rice per day. That's what he was sustaining himself on. He was on the edge of the forest, and he had been doing this for many years, and even in the forest as well. He was on the edge of the forest meditating, and he was pretty much on death's doorstep. He was getting ready to die because his bones were protruding, his facial bones were protruding, his ribs were protruding. He was basically skin and bones. And this mother and this young daughter walk by, and they see that he's sitting on the edge of the forest, and they could tell that he's about to die. This individual does not look well at all. And they beg and they plead with him to eat some rice. And they offered him a bowl of rice. And he decided to accept the rice. He reluctantly decided to accept that rice. And he started eating the rice. And he realized in that moment that he had been doing something that was unwise. That when he was in the palace, he was living this life of luxury. He had everything and anything you could imagine. But when he left, he swung all the way to the other side, and he was living this life of a meager existence, eating 1 grain of rice per day. And this is where he discovered that there's a middle way, that if you live on 2 opposite sides of the spectrum, that you're not going to experience peace and joy. So he started understanding this middle way, and he started eating in moderation. And for the next 4 years, this is where his practice to get to enlightenment really accelerated, and he was able to get to enlightenment through the next 4 years of his journey. So a total of 6 years it took him to get to enlightenment. By the age of 35, he was enlightened, and he knew he was enlightened because his mind was completely peaceful and completely joyful. But his teachings were very different, radically different than anybody that was teaching teachings anywhere else in that region of the world, because they were teaching people to hang themselves upside down from trees, lay on beds of nails, and he knew none of that stuff actually worked. So he wasn't quite sure whether he should share his teachings with others or he should go back to the royal palace. So ultimately, he ends up spending time at this tree, and he hangs out at this tree for about 7 weeks, contemplating whether or not he should actually share his teachings with other people or not. At the end of those 7 weeks, he does decide he's going to share his teachings with other people. And he starts making his way back to where he was with those first 2 teachers. And when he's making his way back to that part of the area that he was in, he encounters 4 of his previous classmates and 1 of his previous teachers. And when he encounters these 5 people, they start laughing at him. They start joking him and mocking him. But by the time you get to enlightenment, if people are saying those kind of degrading and disparaging things to you, it doesn't affect your mind. So he was completely peaceful and he was completely joyful. But the reason why they were mocking him and joking him is they thought he had given up on the path to enlightenment. Because when they saw him walking towards them, they saw this radiant, bright, healthy individual that was walking towards them, this joyful individual. But for them, in order to get to enlightenment, you needed to be disparaging the body. So they were starving themselves. They were hanging themselves upside down from trees. They were skin and bones. And then they saw this bright, radiant, healthy individual coming towards them. They thought that he had given up on enlightenment because to them, an individual who's getting to enlightenment should be starving themselves. So they start laughing at him, joking him, and mocking him. But he knows he's gotten to enlightenment. He's not affected by that. So he walks over to where they're at. He sits down on the ground, and he takes his hand and he touches the earth. And he performs the one and only miracle that he ever performed. When he touched the earth, these animals came to where he was at. There was like birds and lizards and snakes and squirrels and rabbits and all these animals that came to where he was at. And these 5 individuals, it got their attention, and they decided to sit down and actually listen to what he had to say. And he started talking, and he started sharing his very first teaching. He shared the 4 Noble Truths: the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And the way that the teachings of a Buddha work is that they're independently verifiable. So in that talk, when he shared it, they were able to independently verify that he had figured out how to get to enlightenment. So when I share this teaching with you tomorrow, you'll be able to independently verify what I'm sharing with you is true. And that's the way all the teachings of a Buddha are, is they're independently verifiable. And that's why he didn't perform several miracles, because he doesn't need people to know that he's a Buddha in order to help them to be able to get to enlightenment, because his teachings are independently verifiable. So he just performs that one miracle for these instrumental individuals, these 5 people, to get to know that he was an actual Buddha and that he had gotten to enlightenment. But then from that point forward, he just kept teaching people. He didn't need to convince people that he was an actual Buddha. And now his community of students just grows and grows and grows and grows. And countless people get to enlightenment during his life. And then by the time he dies at the age of 80, he preserves his teachings so that other people can actually get to enlightenment. The people who were enlightened during his lifetime, they got together shortly after his death, and they preserved his teachings. And then from that point forward, countless more people got to enlightenment. So these are the 3 main criteria of what makes a Buddha, is that they get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. They will then preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. And these are the 3 main criteria of what a Buddha is. So a Buddha being in the world is very rare. The last one that the world's currently aware of was 2,500 years ago, this individual Gotama Buddha. So you'll be able to get to enlightenment, and you'll be able to experience this mental state, but at that point you wouldn't be considered a Buddha. You'll be an enlightened being. But you won't need to go out and tell other people you're enlightened, because your mind's just going to be peaceful and joyful. You don't need to go brag to other people and show off and be boastful, because if you're doing those kinds of things, then your mind still has ego and you're not actually enlightened. So your mind will just be peaceful and just be joyful. So ultimately the Buddha discovers why people experience difficulties during sickness, aging, and death. That the reason why people experience so much difficulties when they're sick is because they're craving permanent health. That if you have a craving for permanent health and you experience sickness, your mind's not going to like that. You'll be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed. And the thing is that this body is impermanent. It's going to be constantly changing. So if you crave this body to be permanently healthy, you can't experience permanent health of this body. It's just not possible. Or if you crave permanent youthfulness, you're not going to be able to experience permanent youthfulness. You will get wrinkles. You will get gray hair. You will get extra fat here and there as you grow and as you age. So if you crave permanent youthfulness as you age, you will really struggle with that. Or if you crave permanent life and now you get close to death, you will really struggle, and it'll be a very painful death. So you can get to the point where you eliminate that and you understand that those things aren't possible. So therefore, during these time frames, you won't struggle and have difficulties any longer. And that's part of the training that you guys are going to learn about tomorrow. And you might even struggle when you're family members, like your parents, are having sickness, aging, and death. You might crave for them to be permanently healthy, youthful, or have permanent life. And now when you're experiencing that change with their life, you might really struggle within your own mind. But you can get to the point where you don't have those struggles. So the Buddha ultimately figures out why people were struggling during sickness, aging, and death, and he taught them how to escape it rather than rule over this misery and despair that he was potentially going to be ruling over. So this is the life story of the Buddha, kind of in a summary format that allows you to be able to kind of know who this individual is. And what I'll do is just open up to any questions you guys might have about his life story, and I'll be able to help you guys to understand more. So remember, you guys can use the microphones here or online. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So yeah, let me know what questions you guys have.
Okay, I would like to know about the kingdom. Who was ruling after he left?
Who was the king after he left?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. I do know that when the Buddha ultimately got to enlightenment, he came back to that region of the world where his father's kingdom was, and his wife ordained with him, his son ordained with him, his stepmother ordained with him, other brother-in-laws and cousins and people like this. They were coming out of the royal family quite a bit, and his father actually came to him and begged and pleaded not to ordain anybody else from the royal family, because his father was holding on to the royal family, didn't want it to dissolve, because he was craving that permanence, not understanding that the royal family was impermanent. So the royal family essentially collapsed over time because more and more people were coming to join him as a student and get to enlightenment. And the Buddha implemented some guidance at that time that if you are interested in ordaining with him, you had to have your parents' approval, or if you were married, you needed to have your wife or your husband or your children's approval before you could ordain with him, because there were so many massive numbers of people coming to learn with him. He wasn't interested in people's families collapsing and stuff like that. So he made sure he instituted some guidelines that you needed to have your life partner and your children and your parents' support before you could become a student with him. So I don't know who became the king, but I do know that ultimately the royal family collapsed because more and more people were coming out of the royal family to learn with the Buddha. Mm-hmm. Any other questions you guys have? It's not working yet. Is it on? If the light's on, it should be working.
Hello? Okay, there
go.
we go. Where did he spend his life? Where was he born and where did he spend his life?
He was born in what we refer to as Nepal, and he was born in 563 BCE, and then he died in 483 BCE. So he was born in what we refer to as Nepal, and then he taught in Northeast India, what we refer to as Northeast India. In fact, this year, I've organized a trip based on the students' request to take students back to the area where the Buddha was teaching and where he was born. So we're going to do a tour where we go around all the different sites. So if you guys would like to see this, I've organized a tour. It's on our website. You guys can join if you like, where we're going to go around to all these different sites to see where was he born, where did he deliver, or where did he get to enlightenment, where did he deliver his first teaching, where did he die. You're going to see many different sites about the life story of the Buddha. And then I'm going to be delivering talks at each one of these sites in order to help you understand them and understand the teachings of the Buddha. We're going to teach it like a retreat. It's like a moving retreat where we are going to have a bus and then go around from hotel to hotel and place to place. It's a 12-day tour. Yeah, so you guys can even see these sites if you like. Mm-hmm. You have the question too? One by one. Yeah, you guys can keep your mics. That way you have them with you. You won't have to get up so much.
The Buddha's life story, from my understanding, is not part of the teachings. So there is no way to verify those things that happened 2,500 years ago. So many of the things involve a lot of like legend-like features. So does it make sense that we don't have to accept everything from that story in order like to get to enlightenment? This is not a prerequisite for enlightenment, I think.
His story is captured in the original teachings. In the Pali Canon, the people who documented it shortly after his death, they put his life story in there. So it is in there. So it's not that it's, not captured, because it is captured. But his life story isn't required in order to get to enlightenment. If you didn't know his life story, you'd still be able to get to enlightenment. But knowing his life story, it can kind of help you to understand your journey to enlightenment. So like if you ever show up and a teacher is trying to teach you this very rigid meditation position, and sometimes teachers will tell you if you're in pain, just breathe through it. You know that this isn't true. Like this isn't the way to get to enlightenment, is just accept the pain in your body. So the life story of the Buddha, understanding it, it'll help you in your journey, that you understand that physical pain and training the body isn't part of getting to enlightenment. So understanding his life story will help you to get to enlightenment, but you're not required to know his life story in order to get to enlightenment. But oftentimes students do understand it because it helps you to build confidence in the Buddha, and you can see his life story and what he did, like stepping away from the royal riches of a royal family and entering into this life of homelessness and sharing the teachings. That takes an enormous amount of love and kindness towards other people to be able to do that. So these kinds of things, knowing his story, will help you to gain your confidence and be able to help you to be able to plot your own steps in your own journey towards enlightenment.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do, it's about 10:20. We usually take a break here to give you guys a chance to break and spend time with each other. I'm going to pick things up in 20 minutes about the what is enlightenment, because this mental state of enlightenment, you need to know what it is in order to be able to navigate your way to it. Because then when you get to enlightenment, you'll actually know that you've actually gotten to enlightenment, and you'll be able to more easily navigate your way to it. So have a good 20-minute break, and then afterwards I'm going to share with you what is enlightenment. So we'll get back together at 10:40. So thank you guys for your questions, and I'll see you guys in about 20 minutes. Okay, thank you so much.